what used to really hype me up as as just a guy in my 20s, 30s doing the job, was that I was never the leader. And so I thrived on sort of the praise that I would get secondarily from my boss, like, hey, John, I was just talking to so-and-so client. They say you're doing a great job. It'd be like, cool. Like I thrived on that. And then when there's no sort of boss and the clients are basically saying, your associate, your colleague, your staff is doing the great job.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. I mean, I love that for myself, but like, I miss that a little bit. There's that just pet on the head every once in a while that can go a long way, that you kind of don't get anymore as the leader
Yeah.
of a team or company.
Hello, everyone. We are live today with John Hellerman, the founder of Hellerman Communications, a boutique firm excelling in litigation, PR, and crisis communications. With nearly 30 years of experience, he has spent his career helping lawyers, engineers, and consultants get seen and heard, building a proprietary results-based system called the FAME, FAME. And he built this along his professional journey. And today I'm really excited to have him on today's show. Welcome, John.
Nice. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Kwame. Nice to speak with you.
Welcome, John. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, you gave me a great intro, so it's a little hard to beat that. But essentially, my company is a marketing and public relations crisis communications firm located in Washington, D.C. We've been at it since 2003. I got my career started in Chicago in the mid 90s. But essentially what we do is about 60% marketing for professional service firms and the partners and staff that make up those firms. And then about 40% of our practice is crisis communications and litigation PR. And that's primarily my focus is practice. And then obviously I have a great team that does more of the marketing work and that sort of thing.
Wow,
So,
massive. So basically, you've
yeah.
been in the game for quite a long time. And when you started, I wasn't even born yet. And
Yeah, that made me feel good to hear that.
yeah, when you started out, professional service marketing barely existed as a formal discipline. What originally drew you into that space and what kept you there?
Well, I was always a good writer and I was a good communicator. I liked being around people. And so back in Chicago, when I was your age in my 20s, um, doing PR and being involved in a lot of events and things. It was a different type of PR I was doing at the time. When I worked at an agency as an employee, I worked at this great little firm in Chicago that did so many cool things. But we did some work for the city council. We threw the Chicago Marathon. We did the Chicago Christmas Parade. So we'd have to do these really great events. I really enjoyed that. We had a lot of restaurant clients. But I always felt that I was sort of pushing something on, the media. I mean, you do an event, it's great, it's fun. But it is a little bit like free advertising. And on the couple occasions that we had some lawyers to work with, I learned very quickly that their expertise, or not just lawyers, but any sort of expert providing, some analysis to the market, they're just sought after. They're sought after by clients. They're sought after by the media, to make sense of things. And so that's what really drew me to the type of PR that I do now, which is generally speaking, thought leadership creation, content creation for, professionals, for professional experts, expert solutions, that sort of thing.
Yeah, wow. It's impressive how you spotted this gap in the market before most people even realized it was a problem because most
I can
people spend years jumping from one industry to the another, trying to find where they fit. But what you are doing now in the professional service marketing is one of those spaces that requires a lot of patience because you work with people, lawyers, engineers, and people with high reputation. And these people are trained to be skeptical sometimes. So to stay in that space for 30 years means you really had to keep on improving yourself and improving your value over and over again.
God bless them. All my clients probably are, but think they're smarter than me and probably are smarter than me. But it definitely is sort of a market where you get hired for expertise, but then you're working for someone who thinks that they're just as expert as you are. And I think I'm probably guilty for that myself. And I think of myself as a professional thinker in some way, and I think I'm pretty skeptical too. When I hire people, I probably give them a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just in our nature, you know. But I'll tell you, I was just thinking, I just kind of recalled it as you were talking. But the sort of founding story of this is that I had been doing PR in Chicago, and one of our clients was the O'Hare Hilton, which is the Hilton hotel out by the airport,
Yeah.
and they had been hosting. This is now 1996. They had been hosting the Major League Baseball strike talks there. That's where the negotiations were going on. It was a big labor strike for baseball, and my job was basically just to get Hilton signage in the press conference. You know, when they hold a press conference and take pictures and stuff, the job was to make sure that the Hilton signage was sort of like seen and whatnot. And I had just met a guy who, a lawyer client of ours, and he was the former head of the National Labor Relations Board, a big deal. He just started private practice in Chicago, and he became a client of ours. And we would get him things like when his birthday was, or maybe we'd do something in one of the like page 6 columns at the time in Chicago, or a similar type of gossip column. And and that was the kind of stuff we were doing for them, just like little PR stuff. And I happened to be on the dais when these two AP reporters were at the strike talks, and they couldn't get a meeting or talk to one of the AP reporters couldn't get a meeting with the current head of the National Labor Relations Board, which was there at the hotel, just doing the negotiations. And I just happened to look over my shoulder as I was like peeling off a sign from like a Velcro thing. And I said, "Would you like to talk to the former head of the NLRB?" And the guy's eyes lit up. Like, you know, I'd never talked to a reporter at that point that was so happy to hear from me.
Wow.
And that really did change my career, because I immediately thought that there was a whole market here for lawyers and other experts to share their analysis. And for, you know, for every lawyer that was currently unable to talk about a case or whatever it might be because they're involved or conflicted, that there was always another lawyer that could certainly, you know, had an opinion and could share it.
Mhm.
So it did open it up for me, and I started to kind of look into professional marketing and whatnot. And there was this little nascent group nationally uh, at the time called NALFMA, which stood for I don't know, National Association of Law Firm Marketers or something. There's probably 80, and so I think I was like the 81st person into that group, and now it's about, I don't know, 2,600, something like that. You know, international
Oh,
and
okay.
whatnot. So for over the years, you know, it's just really, it's a market that's truly grown, and yeah, it was a good happenstance for me.
Yeah, wow, impressive, impressive. And yeah, there is always this certain point in our life whereby only one movement or one occasion can change, the whole career. So that was such a blessing for your side as well.
Yeah, it really was. And then, you know, just meeting different. One of the great things is that the lawyers that I ended up working for over time have all been, you know, stellar practitioners in their fields. You
Yeah.
know, working at top firms, boutique firms, and whatnot. So I've really had an opportunity and really lucked out in terms of just getting to meet smart people. You know.
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably before you started Hellerman Communications, you were working for somebody. We spoke about this in a previous conversation. And so right now you are leading a team. Our people are working for you, so you are leading this team. I want to ask you right now, since you are in the leadership phase of your career, what does leadership means to you?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, I think it primarily means taking responsibility, and I think part of that responsibility is making sure that you present a vision to your team so that, you know, they can achieve it, or at least work towards it. You know, I always appreciated. I don't know. Probably Elon Musk said this or whatnot, but someone said it that's smarter than me. But it's not so much that everyone's on the exact same vision or path. It's that all the vectors are going in the same way. You know,
Yeah.
everyone who's doing what they're doing is all sort of pointing in the same direction. I think that's one of the primary responsibilities of leadership. And then, you know, there's this sort of which I'm probably not that great at, but the sort of empathetic part of it, which is you know, assuming a lot of the uh, uh, just general stress of the team so that they don't have to be burdened by it, you know. So that's
Yeah, that's really true.
that's the two big things.
So, I'm curious, what did that transition felt like when you moved from, working for somebody, to working alone and leading this team? And, when did the loneliness of leadership first hit you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I should sort of preface this by saying unlike a lot of folks, I presume, that had sort of a junior level, mid level sort of climbs up a corporate ladder, I really kind of lucked out that that was not sort of my path. I had been doing politics stuff in Chicago, which was just one on one. So it was like me being hired to like help a campaign, and I was the guy. And then I got hired into that small firm that I was talking about, and there were only like six of us. So it was very small. So everyone was sort of very high, it was very flat, other than the owner. Uh, and then from there, um, when I kind of got into the lawyers and stuff, I went to work for a firm, and I was sort of second or third to the team leader, and then he left. And so he left after I was at that firm for about a year, and we left to basically start, a firm that bore his name. And pretty quickly, I became executive vice president of that. So I was like executive vice president of Levick Strategic Communications, which is a big crisis communications firm. Back when we started in 1998, I was the EVP of that in 2000.
Mhm.
So I've been sort of in leadership for most of my career, had like a leading kind of role, and that's just I partly it's a little bit of my personality. It's like if I join a temple, I want to be on the board. If my kids go to a school, I'm going to be on the board.
Yeah.
If I get jury duty and I get chosen, I'm going to try to be the jury guy. Just kind of my thing. But it, I think that the loneliness part is really interesting because I do recall just telling a friend of mine that what used to really hype me up as as just a guy in my 20s, 30s doing the job, um, was that I was never the leader, and so I thrived on sort of the praise that I would get secondarily from my boss. Like, hey, John, I was just talking to so and so client. They say you're doing a great job. It'd be like, cool. Like I thrived on that. And then when there's no sort of boss and the clients are basically saying, your associate, your colleague, your staff is doing a great job.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. I mean, I love that for my staff, but like I miss that a little bit. There's that just pet on the head every once in a while that can go a long way. That you kind of don't get anymore as the leader
Yeah.
of a team or company. So
Yeah, and there is something nobody tells you when you become the person in charge of something. That's a feedback loop that helps you grow as an employee. Is the praises and the direction and
that's
the
right.
take-ins, it almost disappears overnight. And most of the time you have to keep making big decisions without anyone above you telling you what is wrong and what is right. So most of the time you have to figure things your own. You understand? And
Yeah,
that
you can't kick anything up. That's exactly right. Like, yep.
yeah, and that silence can be sometimes very heavy on you, especially in the beginning when you are still learning who you are as a leader.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that I certainly made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I referenced before like, kind of my empathy and whatnot. I probably, one of the first probably mistakes I made is that, you think that by being the guy in charge, it's sort of your way. And when you have a team and you have a company and you have clients and you have lots of different sort of stakeholders, which is kind of a cliche term, but it's true. Um, you become a lot more sensitive to sort of the fact that you can't just do what you want.
No.
You have to really. It's more about navigating through sort of a sea of what other people want. To find the best thing for you and the company.
Yeah, Brian Chesky, the founder of AMB, is also really vocal about this subject matter. I was watching a podcast with him and Stephen Bartlett, and he said that the higher he climbed the ladder, the fewer there were people around him, and that nobody told him how lonely it would get along the journey. And he also admitted that so much of his life was being about successful, thinking that people would love him, when he gets successful. I want to ask, does leadership get
Not a lot changes. Your kids get a little nicer, I think. Maybe.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for him, he wasn't married at that time, and if
Yeah.
I recall well from his story, his girlfriend even left him because he was just doing his own business.
She's hitting herself in the head now.
Uh-huh.
That girl is. Yeah.
I want to ask, does does leadership get lonelier the longer you do it, or do you find ways to keep people close to you as you grow?
Wow, so from a personality type, I'm kind of one of those hidden extroverts. So I like people, but I'm also really good by myself, And
Yeah.
if I go to a party, I'm 50-50 talking to people, or I'm just in a corner, like just looking at my watch and hoping someone will say hello to me. If it's my party, if I'm throwing it or it's my event, then I'm going to everyone and shaking hands,
Yeah.
and I can be on. Um, so from a personality type, I would say that I I give my team a lot of leeway. Like, we talk and we're in communication all the time about clients and their thing, but there's not like I'm not. Well, first of all, we work remotely and things like that. So from some perspective, and I don't know, I kind of went down this path of thinking about it, but like, there's not a lot that we're doing. I guess kind of thankfully. I mean, that's probably like we're not throwing like birthday parties and like team birthday parties in the
Yeah.
room and stuff like that. Um, and so that I miss. That's really hard. That would be nice from time to time. Um, at the same time, it's like kind of when you're happy, you don't get invited to the wedding. You know, it's like, okay, I don't have to put on a suit and whatnot. So there's some things about it that are good, and other things about it that I think are bad, but or difficult. But the key thing is just making sure, I think, that you have some touchstone so that you're out of your own head when you make decisions, because you can't purely rely on what's on your head. You have to have. I'm very close to the people that work with me, so we're
Yeah.
constantly talking, and I obviously talk to clients and folks in my business about what's going on all the time. Very curious about that.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's really true about it. And there's also a version of leadership that looks confident and decisive from the outside, but feels like controlled chaos in the inside. You know that on the outside, your
Sure.
employees may be like, "Oh, boss is doing well. He looks confident in this," but then you yourself as the leader, there is this tension going on in the inside. So I want to ask, how honest are you with your team about the uncertainty you carry, and do you think leaders should be?
Well, I would say, and I'm probably a little bit of a hypocrite on this. I mean, I would advise clients and people who run companies to be as transparent as possible. And where that line of transparency is, I guess, depends on that leader.
Hmm.
Um, so I try to be very transparent about like what's going on in terms of like clients, whether they're happy, if they're displeased, which I'd like to say that they rarely are, but if they happen to be, I'm very quick to communicate that with my team so that we can rectify those sorts of things. And you have to have trust so that they're not. You have to have a demeanor and whatnot so that when the phone rings or they get the text from you, they're not avoiding it, right? You don't
Yeah.
want them to panic to get a call. And I would hope that no one I work with, panics if they see my phone ringing from me or a text from me or an email. But but I think that that's sort of an important aspect of it, is just understanding that there's all the other personalities that you sort of have to navigate to make sure that you can stay on point. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
did
That's
it?
a very thoughtful answer as well. And there is also a real tension here that almost a lot of leaders may face as well, because if you're too open about uncertainty, your team can lose confidence in the direction and start to feel unstable. But if you hide everything and you're not transparent enough, as you said, you end up isolated, and your team cannot help you solve problems they don't even know exist. And
Right.
the leaders who gets this right tends to be honest about the challenge without showing doubts about the plan. So yeah, yeah, I agree with you as well, because transparency is also one key thing about leadership.
Yeah, and I think that, like, if you're a fearful leader and you're I mean, the team is there to help you solve problems. So if you're not sharing what the problems are, what's the point of the team? And you have to trust them and they have to trust you. And I would say that if if a leader is worried about their status because of some issue that occurred, um, then they probably need to, like, there's something going on dynamically there within the team that needs to be addressed, because you would never want to feel that way, because that's going to keep you from managing properly, and
Mhm.
that'll affect clients, and that'll affect the team eventually, and obviously yourself. But, um, so it's something very important. So, like I was saying, I would advise towards transparency, and then I was going to say, humbly, I don't know if you were going to ask my employees how transparent they think I am, but I think I do a pretty good job of it. Um, so yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think.
There's other aspects too, like in a large company. Um, like we work with law firms, for instance, and accounting firms that are very open book. So all the partners know what all the partners are making, and um, and that can be okay sometimes if it's very clear, like what the incentives are.
Mhm.
But there are other aspects of transparency where you don't want everyone to know what everyone's making. Like that kind of stuff can be difficult within an organization. So um, that has to be really nuanced, I think.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's golden. Looking back, what's the biggest mistake you made simply because maybe you had no mentor or someone you could talk to? Like, what was the biggest mistake you've ever made in this game?
Yeah, well, in my career, I spent a lot of time. I built up a business, and I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different and redirect myself. And I think I was a little vain at the time, to
Mm.
tell you the truth. Like just talking to myself and talking to people who said, "That would be great." And so I probably did the deal a little bit faster than I would have or should have. And and so just from a and so again, it was like almost starting up again. And and I I didn't think it would be quite as difficult the
Yeah.
second time around. Um, but it was a challenge, and it's fine. But I wouldn't do it again. So I would say that that was my biggest mistake. I would navigate that much differently.
Yeah, yeah, that's very right. And yeah, one of the hidden costs has been, at the top is that the mistakes leaders make do not affect them alone, but it also affects their team and worst case scenario, it may affect your reputation as well. Um
Yeah,
and because there is no one above you who is kind of guiding you through things in what you're doing, it may really do a big damage as well. So the best leaders learn to build their own checks. They learn to communicate well and get people they can trust and depend on their advising and these simple things keeps your leadership also firm and on a really good foundation, because if you have no mentor who is guiding you through the path, you are a bit blind on the way, and you are also prone to making a lot of mistakes as well.
yeah. I was they were more unlucky than me. I was just gonna say I was kind of unlucky in this fact that I had several mentors in my career that ended up sort of passing away early or whatnot. But so no one like kind of consistently throughout my career. For a large part of it, God bless him, my brother, who's recently, or not recently, but as deceased, uh, was one of my major sort of touchstones in terms of that. He was a private equity hedge fund guy, so he knew a lot about business and things like that. So obviously, and being my brother was like the most trustworthy I could get. But I think to your larger point, which is about mentorship and having someone who's kind of been through it
Yeah.
is really important. And I would definitely advise anyone thinking about starting a company or has a company to have someone like that if they don't currently, because it's incredibly important. And they typically need to be. I mean, they should be someone that's disassociated from the company, obviously, so that they can offer
Yeah.
true guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about your proprietary tool, that's fame, focus, authoritative, and media exposure, and it's results based rather than the typical flattening or monthly retainer. And believe that's a really bold positioning move in an industry where agencies love predictable, recurring revenue. What led you to build it that way, and how do clients respond when you explain it?
Well, so what led me to build it? Essentially, the way Fame works, which is different than the other types of engagements, is that rather than you know clients buying hours from us or months of effort, they're buying points, and then different outcomes have different points assigned to them, which is very transparent. And as we deliver those results, we basically deduct the points. So it works like a retainer. It's within the box of, except it's kind of, I didn't want to put it too outside the box. Um, but the idea was is that by transferring sort of the notion to points, um, you step away a little bit from the money. So
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, we're giving this partner 7,000 and this one 10. It's, we're giving this one 7,000 and this one 10,000 points. So it disassociates it a little bit. It allows firms to sort of gamify within their internal structure. Um, and it allows them to really easily understand what they need to compete, because we can benchmark competitors with the same point system and decide how many points our client needs to compete with someone who might have in excess of points than them. So that's really nice. And I branded it focused authoritative media exposure, for to use the word fame. So that was sort of the marketing person in me. Um, but essentially, it's designed to allow clients to allocate resources more accurately.
Mhm.
Because one of the issues working with large firms, especially large professional services firms, is that once you start working for a partner, you rarely stop. And
Yeah.
so the pie just keeps getting larger and larger without necessarily the revenue.
Mhm.
And to protect that revenue, the law firm executives, business development folks need to control the budget. And so this gives them a much more controllable way to allocate the budget resources, and then only to pay for what they're getting. Because obviously, if we spend a month doing something and we're not successful, we're unsuccessful.
Yeah.
They don't pay for it. Um, the second part of your question was, sorry, but how's it taken? Um, so the clients that like it's, I mean, clients recognize the value of it. Um, it's 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 an interesting model for, and I work all the different ways. I mean, I should say, like, Fame is just a, as you said, sort of a positioning tool. It's a way to work, and I
Yeah.
love working that way. And it allows us to scale across a law firm in a way that's different and better for the client. At the same time, we do sell our months and we do sell our hours and things like that. So,
Yeah.
um, so it's really a discussion tool.
Mhm.
But the clients are basically very receptive to it. And then sometimes at the end of the day, they just want the regular retainer that they're all used to, and that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
Unfortunate sometimes, but fine. And that works too. And that, it's interesting because in my business, like, of the clients, like the law firms, the engineering firms, the accounting firms, they're all moving away from hours,
Oh.
or they're trying to. And what happens is the same thing. They talk about how they'll go into a client and kind of present this package of how to do it in like this results based way and whatever. And clients just like, you know what, just give me like 10% off your hours and we're cool. So it's a little bit of a, I'm trying to convince the market of something that's very new.
Mhm.
And so in that way, it's just kind of talking to as many people as possible. And then the clients that we do have that bite onto it love it. It's a great little system. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The retainer model has also been in the in the in the standard. It has been standard in the marketing for a very long time because it
right.
gives agencies the financial safety and the fact that you get paid also every month whether results comes or not, and choosing a results based model puts all the pressure on you to deliver as well, but it also changes the relationship with the client completely, so they stop
Yeah.
seeing you as a vendor and start seeing you as a real partner, and
Well,
that's
that's exactly it.
yeah.
And I would just say, what you hit it on the head. It's like, we, well, first of all, it's a fallacy in the sense that, like, you can sell a month or two of doing nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, if you don't produce after a month or two, and that's reputational, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like, then clients really feel like they got screwed.
Mhm.
So what always sort of bothered me about the retainer model was that dichotomy. Like, very frankly, I always thought that the client's inclined to like feel like they're being underserved, and you are inclined to feel like you're over servicing,
Mhm.
and they don't align very well.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they can align and it's fine, but like what we tend to say is that most firms sort of have a happy-ish relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's throwing chairs, no one's complaining, no one's saying, our marketing firm stinks. At the same time, they don't really know if it's doing anything. You know, they do their weekly reports and they've got their charts and
Yeah.
engagement clicks and whatnot. But the partners are kind of like, well, what's going on? So the way that the points really works is that we really can say like, you know, from the point that we started generating this amount of points and this is as many points as it takes, this is what you got from a market share
Yeah.
in terms of revenue. That's a much better mapping of resources to ROI, right?
Hmm.
So that's just kind of the way it works. And I think I've been at this, like I said, for a long, long time. And, you know, um, there's been things that like we've kind of blazing and whatnot. I think this is one of them. I might just be a couple years ahead of time still, but like it's catching on. So it's good.
Wow, wow, that's
Mm.
brilliant too. That's brilliant too.
Yeah.
With what Hellerman Communication is doing right now, what does success look like for Hellerman Communication in the next 3 to 5 years?
Uh, I just want to kind of continue on the growth path that we're on now, which is nice and steady. It allows me to, really look at our talent.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned about fame, just as a system, is that it places all the team risk sort of on me
Hmm.
and our company, which is a nice aspect for clients, but also it makes it imperative that I find really terrific people. Um, and for instance, like my VP of client services is she just won like the Women in PR award
Yeah.
as a dynamic doer and whatnot. So you have to have people like that, on your
Yeah.
team getting things done. Um, so that's essential. Um, but I think from growth's perspective, be about triple in size from now, in
Yeah.
about 5 years. That would
Yeah.
be fantastic. You
Wow.
know?
Oh, you reach there. You triple 10 times.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The next thing on the horizon, I think, is implementing some AI workflows that we're working on. So
Mm,
that's been a big focus of mine over the last like
nice.
5 6 months. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great. And do you have any last remarks for our audience?
Well, I just tell you, one of the things that I would tell my kids and I would tell like young uh, folks in business, um, do your own thing. Like you're not gonna uh, and be kind, like build a great team and share and be collaborative and
Yeah.
but really sort of set your own path because um, there's much more opportunity in it down the road.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and there's so many opportunities if you fail at one, just don't have your heart broken and just go on
Mhm.
to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much opportunity, especially now, just with the way agents and AI and is
Yeah,
coming.
that's very
I just
true.
think that's gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right. All right. Thank you very much, John.
well, thank you, Kwame.
Yeah, your time.
Nice to speak with you.
Yeah, and in case anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Well, my email is jhellerman, HELLERMAN, at hellermanllc.com. Our website's hellermanllc.com. Check it out. And if we can help you in any way, give me a call.
All right, all right. Hellerman Communications to the world, yo. All right.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you
Kwame.
very much, John. Once again, I really loved your perspective on leadership, and I liked also the fact that you are really humble and you relate to yourself, and then you praise other people and be like, "Hey, you are smarter than me," etc. That's a really great personality, and I've learned a lot from you today. So, thank you, and God bless you very much.
Thanks for having me, Kwame. Nice to speak with you.
So,
Bye bye.
guys, that will be a wrap for today. We believe you enjoyed this conversation, and this conversation resonated with you as well. So, that was it for today. Remember, we are here to keep on learning and keep on growing as a community. So, I will see you in the next episode. Bye.